especially the Negro called me on the phone that I used to hang around with there. We did a little traveling together. And he hadn't talked to me 71. Shoot, he hadn't talked to me in 50 years. Right? He hadn't talked to me in 50 years. I don't know where he got my phone number. But yeah, this is me. So and we're in the Starbucks, and I'm talking loud, and the kids are saying, Dad, everybody. So I went outside. This was on my 75th birthday, so that was last year on my birthday. Remember when we was at the train station? Remember what the point is that the police been on my case ever since then. Before then, I knew who I was traveling with, and I knew what was going on. I knew who he was. And I met some of my brother's friends over there. And I knew, or I figured out who they was. I know that one of them, he was a real black Negro, and he went somewhere. And he had a white wife, a girlfriend, and he said, well, and I was staying with him. He said, yeah, well, you stay here. So the girl was left there. He left her there with me, like people, for me to get off the dusty list. Because the police, when they following you, they study this guy haven't had sex in a while. So they set you up so you don't get too nervous or something. That's what they do. I'm telling you, that's what the boss man do it all the time. So anyway, in fact, that's who I went to see Angela Davis's sister with. I took them to a fundraiser in Copenhagen because we lived outside of town where the Danish kings used to live. It's called Roskilde. And it was a place where I was really learning culture. Because it would take the train maybe 20 minutes, half an hour to get in the center of Copenhagen. And walking from the house to the place, I would see all the little red-cheeked little white babies in the morning, in the winter, in baby carriages. And they'd have little things hanging down, they'd be playing. I said, man, this is child cruelty. This is what I was thinking. But they do it as all the people acclimatize their children to cold. Another thing I saw, you know them clogs that have the heel out, the wooden heel, so all that stuff? The construction workers would be working with their heel out in the winter, with clogs. They would be wearing clogs. Because they acclimatized to, you know how cold a Negro get cold. If it get below 50 degrees, this nigga go get an overcoat, you know, and all that stuff. Sleeping all under the covers. But them white folks, it's not that they just could take more. They acclimatized. They bundle their little babies up, and they set them outside in the front of every house. You go by the house, I said, boy, these white folks is some cold white folks up here for the first couple of days. Then I realized, because the babies ain't oppressed. They just playing. They got a little something hanging down, a little yellow bird or something. I said, boy, I tell you, but they acclimatized. It taught me something, that no matter how hostile the environment, if you train to live in it, right? You live in it comfortably and everybody else is miserable and dying. But if you train to live in an environment, right? That's what the talk is about today. The environment that we've been living in, we've been trained to live in it. Everybody else, nobody would do like, we're getting ready to take some steps forward, but where we have been already, we have mastered, okay, I would say we are an example of what Negroes can stand in America. We have outlook, I'm telling you, believe it or not. Malcolm X lasted from 52 to 65, 13 years. And that's it. Martin Luther King, 56, 55, 56, the bus boycott down there, and 68. Another 12, 13 years, right? That's why we always talk about longevity. Martin Luther King in his last speech said, he mentioned it. He said, longevity, does anybody remember that, has its place. But he already knew. Somebody had called him on the phone, and some of those, he got the call. He knew, okay, I'm a dead nigga now. You could tell on his face, you could tell how he's talking. He already knows he's a dead man. Malcolm had had a talk with him years before. You know what Malcolm told him? Malcolm called him a glorious fool. That's what he told King. You're a glorious fool. They had a good human conversation, but he also, Malcolm told him, he said, well, whatever it is, me and you is dead, that's for sure. Me and you, we dead men. Don't you worry about that. Right? He was telling the truth. Me and you, hey, we can call it a day. I don't care what you like, whether you want to be here, lovely children, it don't make no difference. Me and you, it's all over. So Malcolm had some insight. We have been here doing what we're doing, and I mentioned those things way back because there's a time when you become conscious, really conscious. That was the era when I became conscious of the real environment. I left America, but when I left America for certain reasons. I knew what I was doing here, East Oakland Enterprises, trying to help black people, and we would mention things like, well, the white man got you on the board, the chessboard. In other words, you know, basically you can call it a day. Well, I wasn't taking that. I had a certain idea. I had already saw how they was doing Negroes. They take every Negro, tie him behind a carriage, the thing, and drag him down the street in front of everybody. Not physically, but psychologically. Every hero, right? They would do that if they could. And I said, they ain't gonna do that to me. Not that I was gonna try to avoid this or avoid that, but I was gonna do that, and the white man ain't gonna do that to me. So far, this is way over 50 years from that time, and they ain't did it. For that, I am super, double, triple, quadruple thankful and grateful. Technically, it's not from me, it's from Allah. But there's a hadith that's saying there's no petition between the dua of the oppressed and Allah. And although at that time it wasn't a dua, it was just an arrogant nigga with an idea. I ain't letting that cracker do that to me. You know, later it becomes a real dua where you know. But even when you enter that foolishness, you still know, if you're from the old days, you know Allah is God. You know that, you already know that. But it takes you a little while to get there, because you might want to go through everything, communism, socialism, niggism, black net, right? You got to go through all of that. What we did is we went through all of that and we only kept those things that were good. So if you looked at our lectures from 81 and all that, we always talked about the Long March. Anybody know what the Long March is? That's China. The Long March. Boy, that was serious what they did. I was saying that we have that same thing to do here. And I made a research that the problem we had was different than the revolutions in Africa and Asia. They had time and they had location on their side. They had location because they were from that area. And the white man came from somewhere else and was oppressing him. So whether it's so-called Malaccan terrorists in Indonesia and all of that, they were all from there, right? And the revolutionaries could all go out in the woods and hide. They could take off their revolutionary garb and snatch a hoe and start and the white man wouldn't know, right? Okay. When I studied our situation, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. First of all, by that time we had moved into the cities by the millions, and there was no place to hide. And we were products of this system, so much so that if you was hiding from the white man, eventually you're going to bump into a Negro that's going to tell on you. And not only that, boss man was marrying. See, the average person thinks, well, nobody would marry somebody just because the white man told them. That's absolutely wrong. In the movement, they have a whole system. I was watching, you got an all African Revolutionary Party, you know. You look at them. Sister Bahia and all of them belonged to the All African Revolutionary Party, whatever it was, and their job was to flirt with Negroes. As they said to me in their own words when they think I didn't know what they was talking about, it looked like that was our job almost. It was a job. Because her husband used to do the main running of Kwame Ture, you know. Yeah, sure, of course. And all the rest of them. So then thankful means that by the time you're acquiring not only information, but the structure. I knew years ago when I was down in Bolivia, when I came back over here, I went to Mexico for a while, did a little something, then I went down to South America because our goal then was to become distributors of cocaine in the United States, which that's what we became. It wouldn't be speed like crank. It wouldn't be this, that marijuana was too big, you know. And so what's the most harmless thing? In those days, 100 years before crack, was hydrochloride, cocaine. And the only people used it was who? White folks and wealthy people. All entertained. Everybody, you had to be rich. You couldn't be no broke. 1 spoon, 1 gram was $100 of whacked up cocaine. So now what, suppose you're going to bring in and keep it close to pure, not pure, because that'd just be, the people would, it'd run them crazy, pure. So you're just going to put 1 cut on it. 1 cut. In fact, that's the way I liked mine, with 1 cut on it. I did. It's like snorting glass. You know, it's pure cocaine. I don't know if you ever seen it, it had them ridges in there. It's like snorting glass. you know. So if you put a little mannitol with it, it softens it up. And it's very good. Anyway, not very good now, but it was very good then. This is make a distinction now. It's very good then. But anyway, so that was our idea. I told the party. We met, elders was there, Pete O'Neill was there. What's the name of stuff? Sekou, everybody was there. And I told them we was in Algeria. I said, well, if we're going to have a revolution, first of all, their behavior was non-revolutionary behavior. Non-revolutionary in 97%. And the leader in that behavior was Eldridge Cleaver. I went to his house one time,